My name is Kim Morrow. I am a senior associate with Veritas Group. We are an environmental sustainability consulting company, and we are one of the project partners with the City of Lincoln in helping to execute this recycling education and behavior change campaign. I'm here today with my colleague Louise Lynch from Carson & Co. Global. They're the lead organization on this project. And this event is being hosted by the Nebraska Recycling Council. And we have Julie Deagle, the director, and Beth and Heather, who are helping to host today. So we are your hosts. I'd like to also thank First Plymouth Church for hosting us today. They did a beautiful job setting up the room and being generous with their food or their drinks for us today. The purpose of this event is to help educate multifamily housing owners on how to start or improve recycling programs. And as I think you all know, the city is instituting a new law effective April 1st this year that will ban corrugated cardboard from going to the landfill. And so this is an opportune time for all of us in the city to come together to improve recycling programs. And we are working with a diverse cross-section of sectors in the city, from the residential to the commercial side, to help improve recycling. And we wanted to give a particular focus to multifamily housing because this is an area that needs some improvement in our city. So we thank you all for coming today to learn about how you can start or improve your programs. Before I introduce our presenters, I'd like to ask you all to introduce yourselves briefly. If we could, I'd like to go around the room, and I'd like to ask you to just say your name and the organization that you're representing today. And I think I'll start with you because you're in between bites.
David Schaefer of Cache, Nebraska, Clean, Affordable, Safe Housing.
Welcome.
Anthony Clark, Good Country Rentals.
Christy Hunt, Rikus Equipment.
Lori Reno, Fremont Pines Apartments.
Brent Crampton, Hillside Solutions.
Gene Hanlon, I work as recycling coordinator for the city.
Dale Eckert, EcoCycle from Boulder, Colorado.
Jeff Graham, Salt Valley Property Management.
Matt Dempsey with the City Recycling Office.
Sharon Rowan with Cherry Hill Apartment.
Jim Best with Recycle Town, Concierge Recycling Services.
Desiree Level, Century Sales and Management.
Shannon Fisher, Century Sales and Management.
Kate Rathke, also Century Sales and Management.
I'm Heather Creven with the Nebraska Recycling Council.
Julie Deagle, Nebraska Recycling Council.
Beth Anderson, Nebraska Recycling Council.
Denise Shabalski, Willow Creek Apartments. Chandra Taylor, Somerset Apartments.
Clark, Council, Somerset Apartments, Property Management.
Jody Gretel owns 3 duplexes.
Dana Board, Dempster's Recycling Trailers.
Tony Ocopo, Single House Family.
David Anderson, Andersonberry Properties.
Amy Thompson, Concord Management Development.
Patrick Oaks, Concord Management Development.
Marna Wood, private owner.
Scott Niederhouse Refuse.
Sherry Meter.
Eric Bashir with Kruger Development.
Wonderful. Thank you all. We're really pleased to have a diverse cross-section here today of multifamily housing owners, large complexes and small units as well, and some representatives from the waste hauling industry too. So thank you. So we are launching this week actually a project called Take It to the Bin. The mayor will be giving a press conference on Thursday, and you should be seeing articles in the newspaper and billboards and bus wraps and all kinds of stuff. This is really a community-wide effort to educate residents on how to recycle corrugated cardboard. Lincoln is not the only community that has a cardboard ban. Other communities like Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Fort Collins, Colorado, Iowa City, Iowa, Cedar Rapids, etc., have also banned cardboard. More and more communities are realizing that cardboard is a valuable commodity and should not be thrown away. But we are the first community in Nebraska to have a cardboard ban. There are already other materials that are banned from the landfill, which you may be aware of. For example, tires, batteries, appliances, and yard waste are currently banned. People have often asked, why was cardboard chosen to be banned? People studied the composition of our landfill here in Lincoln, and it was determined that about 9.5% of the garbage that collectors take to the landfill is corrugated cardboard. So this is the largest single recyclable material disposed of in the landfill. And that amounts to roughly 37.5 million pounds of cardboard that are disposed of annually in Lincoln. Cardboard has both a high commodity value and is also in high demand by paper mills. So if the city of Lincoln had actually recycled that amount of cardboard, over $2.3 million would have been paid for the cardboard, and over 35 local jobs would have been created. And we would have removed the annual emissions from over 11,000 vehicles. Because as you probably know, recycling does save energy because you conserve the energy that would have been created in manufacturing those materials in the first place. So it saves emissions and is an important strategy to combat climate change as well. So the ban pertains to corrugated cardboard specifically. Corrugated cardboard is, as you see, the cardboard that has two layers with a rippled middle layer. We did some research early in the project and found out some of the benefits that people experience to recycling. The care for the environment, as you might imagine, is definitely a high on the list of people's perceived benefits of recycling. It conserves natural resources and saves energy. It also extends the life of the landfill, fosters a sense of community pride, and supports our economy. We surveyed Lincoln businesses and asked why they recycle, and a lot of people said it's the right thing to do. I think I heard that this morning too. People just feel like it's the right thing to do. They take pride from helping to protect the environment. They know that their employees appreciate it, and their tenants are starting to ask for it more and more. And it also enhances their company's reputation. So we are bringing together various members of the team in Lincoln, from the city of Lincoln to residents, to businesses, to recycling processors, to garbage collectors and haulers, and we're all working together to adjust to this new transition. We realize that this is a big transition for our community, and we realize that it's more difficult for some than others for a variety of reasons, but we know that if we all put our best efforts together to try to overcome the stumbling blocks and problems, we can make this a success in Lincoln as it has been in other communities. The City of Lincoln has begun a leadership recognition program for companies who are recycling and composting. And I just wanted to flag this in case your company might be interested in applying for this program. And you can see the different levels here that correspond to the percentage of waste that you're able to divert from the landfill through recycling or composting. And there's an application form on the city's website, and you can be recognized and have some public recognition of your business. So something to keep in mind. These are some of the businesses and organizations in Lincoln who have already been recognized and who are already recycling at impressive levels. So now I'd like to introduce our speakers. Our first speaker is Katie Lyons. She's the regional manager of Broadmoor Apartments. Our second speaker will be John Carlson. He is a small multifamily complex owner. And our third speaker will be Ryan Hatton from PARAGON Sanitation. Each speaker is going to speak for about 10 minutes, and I'd like to ask if you could hold your questions to the end, and we'd like to reserve at least a half an hour at the end for a lot of Q&A. So we'll get your questions answered at the end. So I'd like to introduce Katie.
Hi, I'm Katie, and like she said, I'm the regional manager for Broadmoor here in town. We have 4 apartment complexes. We've got Holmes Lake, High Point, Old Cheney Place, and a new one called Ashbrook that we just opened about a year ago. I've worked for them for almost 19 years. We've been recycling for a long time, which is why I think I got the phone call from Kim to come here and talk to you guys. About 5 years ago, I was sitting in a regional manager meeting, and they asked us how we could make our properties better. And one of the ways that we talked about was by starting a recycling program. So we challenged each of our properties throughout the whole company to come up with a way that they could recycle at their community. Most communities took a vacant garage and just made it into a recycling center. I had one community at the time that actually has trash rooms in their buildings, which I'll show you a picture of in a minute. But that's kind of how we went. What this took once we started it, it seems really simple to me, was simply a way to identify it to your residents, a little bit of education and communication with them, and finding a company that will give you the totes and set up the program with you. Through the years, we've just added more totes as we needed to. I think we started with like 6 at the time. Now we're up to 12, 15 totes in each garage, so it works. I've got some pictures here. This is what our garages look like, how they're marked. What that is our Broadmoor logo, and we just made it into a recycling looking logo. All of those, each property has one of those with the big logo on it. At one point in time, the doors were painted green when we first started as well, and that really drew the attention to what it was. But as time's gone on, we've painted them back because now people know that we have them. So that's one of them. That's at Ashbrook. This is what it looks like inside. It's pretty simple. It's simply the totes, which are 95-gallon totes from the trash company that does our trash pickup. That's what it looks like at the beginning of the week in a snowstorm. And the last one is what it looked like. I took a picture at High Point last week, the day before they picked it up. So you'll see it's a little bit messy. People aren't real clean about recycling a lot of the times, but our trash guy says it works just fine and he has no complaints about it. According to our trash guy, each location has about 300 pounds of recycling a week that we do. So we've got a pretty good number going, I think. Right now they pick up weekly. If we need to, as this grows, which we probably will, we'll just add a pickup day because they pick up trash more than once a week. This is just, recycling is just once a week. At Holmes Lake Apartments, it's a little bit different community. You've got underground parking, elevators, a little bit older clientele. And in those buildings, when they built them in 1996, they designated actual trash rooms. So you've got a trash chute in there, and then we've always had recycling totes as well in there. It's been that way since 1996. The residents there are really programmed to use it. I would say the biggest challenge that we're facing right now is where we're going to put the cardboard, because there's not a lot of room in these rooms. So we're also trying to come up with a solution for that. On the side there, I just took a picture of a sign that hangs in the High Point Recycling Garage. We don't do glass. Our recycling company doesn't like us to do glass. It's a safety issue. If it breaks, it's dangerous for our residents walking in, it's dangerous for our staff picking up, and for his staff too. So that's really the only issue that I have with the recycling. And then this is just an example of a flyer that we handed out at the beginning. Briarwood is one of our communities in Omaha. And this is what, when we started this program 5 years ago, this went to every single door throughout the community. Now what we do to keep people educated, which is the key to making this work, is we obviously sell our recycling garage at tours. People love the fact that we have a recycling garage where they can take things. When they move in, we reiterate it, obviously. And then I put it in every newsletter that we send out about every quarter. And with the cardboard ban, I'm working on some kind of March, program to get this. It takes 21 days to form a habit. So I'm hoping if I nag them all month, then hopefully by April 1st, we will be ready to go. Just a couple, Kim had given me some questions of, things that may come up. So I just had a couple random questions and answers to them. She had asked me if our containers had locks on them. Apparently people have been asking that. Our containers are exactly the totes that your trash company gives you for your house. It's just they're bigger. They're 95-gallon ones. We had talked about doing mini dumpsters at one point in our garages, but the totes have really worked well. We don't provide receptacles to residents to take their recycling to the garage. Most people just put it in a bag or carry it out either way. I know in Omaha at one point they tried to do receptacles in the hallways, and depending on what kind of complex you have, sometimes the smell was an issue with people not taking care of their stuff that they put out there. The biggest thing to know is that these areas are going to be messy from time to time. We all know how our residents, you've got good ones and you've got ones that aren't considerate of everybody else. So the easiest way to handle that with big complexes anyway is just to have somebody from your staff check them daily, every other day. That way you catch any big issues that are going on. I know we had some concerns about, trash contamination with the recycling. According to my trash company, this happens less than 5% of the time with our company because he thinks it's because we have totally separate areas. So if you obviously not everybody has the same spaces. So he said the biggest problem is that if you put a recycling bin next to the trash, people aren't taking the time to make sure they know which one they're putting it in. So it does help. He said that at a property where the areas are combined, he believes it happens at about 50% of the time it gets contaminated. So it really helps to have a separate garage or separate area. And then I had the glass there, same thing. So that's all I have. It's really simple. It's not that hard to figure it out. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to help. And now who am I? John, you're up.
I don't know why I brought my pen up here, but I did. Good afternoon, I'm John Carlson, and according to the thing, I'm a small multifamily property owner. I'm actually a large person, but I'm a small owner. I have kind of a range in my portfolio of apartments. I've got a couple of houses converted to apartments, 4-plex, 6-plex. I've got a downtown building, that's this one up that's on the shot right now. I've got another downtown building that's built as a 4-plex, and then I've got a small apartment complex that has 3 12s and a 21-plex. When Kim asked me to be part of the program, I was happy to do that. I told her that, unlike the previous speaker, we don't have mature programs, but she said, well, that's good because you need to be walking through, and maybe you can help people kind of think through and walk through. They'll be in exactly the same shoes that you are. So I think that's probably the thing I want to stress first in terms of where we are today is that, it's happening April 1st. It's February 20th today. So you need to be thinking about your 30-day notice, frankly, how you're going to notify your tenants about what your expectation is for April 1st. Certainly what I've been doing. You all probably have a real estate attorney that you use. We use Jan Barron. You can use whoever you want, but we're going to be speaking at the RIOMA meeting later on this week on Thursday, doing another presentation and talking about that too. So the first thing before I talk about my apartments is just to kind of, that really ought to be the first step that you're thinking through. Not only how am I going to accomplish this, but how am I going to communicate that to my tenants, and how am I going to put that into my lease provisions, and how am I going to notify my tenants? Because if they don't know what the expectation is, they're clearly not going to perform. So be thinking about that, be thinking about how you're going to notify them, and about what kind of lease provisions you want to put in. I'm just going to walk through some of the properties that I have. I didn't know we were going to be on TV, so I got to show the back of my properties where the trash is. That's very exciting to sell your properties, but we'll do that. Just to give you a sense of kind of the buildings that I have, maybe it's analogous to something that you have. Maybe it'll help you when you're thinking about what you want to do. This first building we have it's a tight site building. It's downtown. As you can see, there's really no yard. There's just the sidewalk. It sits on a corner. There's no off-street parking. And in the back, you can even see that where our building ends, the tan building on the alley, 2 of those toters are actually our toters. The rest of them belong to Hot Mess and some of the property owners that are on 11th Street. And so they're actually kind enough to let us put their toters there. There's a recycling toter there. We've had some early conversations about, do we want to work together to put out a common recycling site there? That's one that makes a lot of sense because everybody's got the toters there. If we put out 4 or 5 more recycling toters, it doesn't make any sense. Maybe we can save a little money if we all combine and work together and save on the space. This is another near downtown building that I have. It's built as a 4-plex. It does have parking. Those houses on the other site are the ones that are on the tight sites. The reason I showed this one here, and this has happened before to some of my apartments too, and the reason that I think tenants are interested in recycling is because the tenants got recycling. I don't pay for this service. The tenants got that on their own. That's happened at some of my house conversions before. Maybe you've seen that at some of your properties. So it's clearly something that some tenants are interested in and some tenants don't mind paying for. And so as you think about as you're going to set up your systems, as I think about how I'm setting up my systems, is there a cost to doing it? Sure there is. If you're going to do curbside recycling. And again, that's another choice you need to be thinking about for yourself too. What are you going to communicate to your tenants? Are you going to set up curbside recycling at your properties? Or are you just going to tell them that corrugated cardboard is no longer allowed in the trash and tell them that either they need to contract for the service or that they need to take it to a public drop-off site? But you're going to be thinking about what strategy you want to use. Personally, I'm going to go for the curbside recycling service. I've got some calls out now to my current haulers, my waste haulers, to see what kind of prices they have. We use a certain hauler at our house, and so I've got a call out to their recycling hauler to see what kind of prices they want to give me at my houses too. But I'm going to choose to do curbside recycling at it's not curbside, it's in the back, but hauler pickup at my buildings, because to me the prices that I'm getting, yeah, it's a little bit of an additional expense, but I have to factor that in versus the hassle of what if the tenants don't perform. I want to give them the expectation, I want to let them know what's expected of them, and I want to give them an easy process to follow, because in the long run, it's my business, and time equals money, and if I can do the curbside recycling to minimize the hassle to me, then that's something I'm interested in. If tenants are interested in it and that cost gets passed on to them, then that's a service that they want. Show the house conversions. To me, the house conversions are probably the simplest ones because, well, they're a house, right? So that really functions a lot like any house would be. It's a little bit of a tight site. This is a house. It's on a corner. The backyard at some point had a house built in it. It's pretty common. You see them in older neighborhoods. The dumpster, as you can see, barely. It's right there. There's a close-up. Tenants don't roll it back, hardly ever. But again, in this circumstance, just contract with the recycling service, put the toter right next to the trash, and then it's all about just communicating to the tenants what goes where and what can go where. Another house conversion just shown in the back. This is one that occasionally has recycling just show up because the tenants contract for it because they want it. And again, you're going to have your own kind of situation here, but it depends on who you kind of rent to. The old house tenants that we tend to rent to, they tend to seem to stay a little bit longer than the complex tenants that we have. They feel a little bit more communal. They want to live in a house. They like the antique stuff. And so in those circumstances, those are ones a lot of times where we see the recycling pop up because it kind of feels like home to them. Or they call up and want to plant a garden, or they want to do various kinds of things. So those are good tenants. They really want to put down the roots. But there's a circumstance here again where we have parking in the back. We have 2 toters. The assumption is we'll just put another toter there too. And all these places too, we have a space in the front by the mailboxes, whether they're on the inside. We've got a bulletin board where we put things. Of course, we'll post to the individual tenants. We'll send them notices to do the official 30-day by the mail. But we'll put up our notices and our flyers to remind people about recycling expectations. And a lot of times the toters themselves have information right on them too to remind them what things go where. Here's a fun one. Anybody ever have this happen? You're not a landlord if you don't say that it happens. And the reason I put that in there, this is the kind of the small complex that we have, but it's a change. Recycling is a change. It's a new process. We got to communicate to tenants. Like everything that we do in our apartments, it's about the tenant's performance, right? I own the building, but they live there. It's their home, right? I'm counting on them to use the utilities in a reasonable manner, to have proper housekeeping, to respect the rights of their neighbors, to park in the right place, and to put the trash in the trash can. Doesn't always get in the trash can, but most of the time it gets in the trash can. My point in bringing that up is that recycling is going to be a new thing. People are nervous about it. Owners are nervous about it. What am I going to do about it? Is it going to be a hassle? I've got to get theft of service. Are people going to put their recycling in my can? Are the tenants going to leave trash on the ground? What's going to happen? And that's reasonable. We want to think about that. We want to take the proper steps in order to try and minimize any of that disruption. But my point in showing this is that, it's going to be a lot like where we already are. So I have dumpsters. I have 4 or 5 dumpsters out there. It's a tight neighborhood. It's a dense neighborhood. I live in this neighborhood. Do we have the occasional tire show up? Yeah, we do. Twice a year, they show up. I have standing requests with the haulers that I use. Whatever shows up at the dumpsters, take it. If there's an extra charge, that's fine. I'll pay it. They know that because 1 tire usually turns into 2 tires. 1 couch usually turns into a couch and 2 dressers. So I want them to pick up the materials and get them gone. Is that an extra charge to me? It is. Is there justice in me having to pay that charge? I don't know. But to me, in the grand scheme of things, it's about what do I want to have for my business. And I want to get that stuff picked up. I want it to be convenient to me. And so I want to contract with my haulers to take care of that when these kind of things happen. So we get the occasional things dropped off. Is that going to happen when recycling happens? Probably. Will some neighbor come across the alley and put their cardboard in our cardboard recycling? They might. But I think to the extent that we see it being a problem today with trash, it's not that big of a problem. And I don't anticipate it being that big of a problem with the complexes. Another interesting thing about this particular complex, and you probably all have your own individual circumstances, again, what kind of communication do you want to use? So this is a complex where we happen to have a lot of new American families there. And so we have a lot of our information has to be translated into various languages or into pictographs. So I had both of these. I'll toggle back and forth, but for example, I don't know if anybody out there reads Karen. But if you do, you can bust me because this has nothing to do with recycling. This is how to clean your apartment. But I did that one because we're actually working on the flyer about recycling and how we want to do that. Now, obviously, this is too wordy. This has a lot of, specific stuff about cleaners and things that you use, and the best cleaners we found. But I think between the pictographs and between trying to get things translated into different languages, which we can help guide you to resources for that if you have different languages. Some of the stuff's already on the internet, on the city site. I think, Gene, Spanish, Arabic, Vietnamese. Okay, so there's some of the real common ones here in Lincoln are already up on the city website with stuff translated. If you have specific needs, get a hold of us. We can try and direct you to Center for People in Need or Language Link or some of the other things to do around. So anyways, I'm gonna hand it over to Ryan, but again, my thought is, as a fellow landlord, start thinking about it now. You're gonna need to get the 30-day notice out. You're gonna wanna call around and contract for your service and get your prices so that you're ready to go on the day one.
Hello, I am Ryan with PARAGON Sanitation and Recycling. I've had a few opportunities to work with some very large apartment complexes here in Lincoln. Approximately about a year ago with our largest apartment complex. We have been working with them to help educate their clientele. Some of the strategies that we have come up with, and you can see that it's a work in progress. We've been doing it with this large complex now for approximately 1 year. We do have styrofoam that we're still getting in some of these toters. And you know what, it's okay. We take the time because we are helping educate not only the clientele that this apartment complexes houses, but our employees are learning this as well. We take the time every time we're there to haul the trash to look in the recycling bins to verify and dig out the occasional trash. I can honestly say that right now we probably start off with between 10 and 15% of participation in recycling. I was actually told by the apartment complex manager now that they strongly feel that they're probably between 20 and 25% because we have added a tremendous amount of toters to their complex. So we feel that, and we're getting a lot more recycling materials out of those complexes. So having this occasionally occur is okay. We just try to have a clean product that we take to the processor. So one of the strategies that this complex has used with our help is the education. They are starting with flyers, emails, and quarterly letters all the time about educating the clientele about how to recycle properly and the things that we can take. Obviously with this cardboard ban, that was one of the reasons why this apartment complex wanted to get ahead of the curve. And so besides offering cardboard recycling, they now offer single stream recycling as well. One of the things that we actually do as a company is we still do offer glass recycling. But the thing that we have done and what we educate with through this apartment complex is we ask that all the glass is placed in bags next to the toters because we have a place on our trucks that we can separate the glass because it can become an issue if it's commingled because it can ruin all the recyclables basically in a truck because once the glass starts to break down, it gets inside the fibers of the paper and all the other recyclables, and then that entire load will actually become trash. So we still do offer glass recycling because at the recycling center, they have a separate facility that we can dump the glass at. So we've had good luck doing that. I used to take it to the city drop-off sites, and Gene told me not to do that anymore. I would say one of the successes that we've had with this complex is because we have had the opportunity to work through some of the issues like this. Their clientele get new TVs, microwaves, and what do is they stuff all the packing materials back inside the cardboard box. Myself and my employees, we have actually taken the time to empty all the cardboard out because we're trying to help show people that if we leave the empty box there, that this is the proper way to do it. And we've actually had some success doing it. Katie brought up a great point, and I wish we had the space at this complex, and that would be to separate your trash from the recycling materials because it's very easy then for people to see that this is strictly recycling, this is strictly trash. So unfortunately, the space is an issue, like John said, at some of his complexes. So we have containers that we try to have clearly marked recycling, but sometimes people still, you know what, there's people out there that want to try to recycle everything. And honestly, I don't mind that, but we just have to get it cleaned up for them. So every time we run into an issue like this, that's another little flyer we can use, or tidbit we can use in the flyer to help, you know, educate the customers that are out there. Let's see here. I would honestly say, from our experience, do not cut back on your trash service after you start implementing recycling at your facilities or at your complexes. Because what happens is people will still produce trash, but once you try to cut back trash service, they're going to throw their trash into the recycling, and right away it'll ruin it. So, you know, it just takes education, you know, a continuous education stream, and eventually people will start understanding, and you'll see a good, you know, Katie mentioned that she started with 6 recycling toters in her garage and grew it to 18. And we've seen that already at this complex, and we start seeing the diminishing side on the trash. But it definitely takes time. So I would definitely say it does not work if you automatically say, well, I want to try to save and cut costs. I'm going to just cut back to once a week trash and once a week recycling. It's not going to work because people will still produce the amount of trash that they always have. They don't know the education side of recycling, and you'll have both bins contaminated. And it's not always about cutting corners and saving money right away. Let's see here. I would say we've gotten to the point now that when we check every 8 toters at a recycling site, like this, I only have a picture of one right here, but we'll have 8 toters where we have some dumpsters at. I would say now, we used to start off with out of the 8 toters, probably about half of them would be contaminated. Now, maybe we only have 1 bag of trash. And we have found out that it has to do with translation. And we didn't realize that there was a large amount of, you know, I think it's Mandarin, now that I think about it, speaking people. And we're going to get that literature to these people in Mandarin so they can understand not to put trash in the recycling bins. I also think that what we've gotten feedback from this apartment complex is they really, really enjoy now for the last year. When new students start moving in the fall, they are now, you know, advertising that they can recycle on campus. And I think that's a big pull for the landlords in here. Advertising to new students coming into the universities throughout Lincoln, it's a big pull for these kids to say, hey, I don't have to leave this complex. I can now recycle on campus, and that's been a big, big success for the complex we're working with. This here is a toter, a prime example of a toter of just clean recyclables, and people are understanding it. And we haul this complex every Monday for recycling, and this was Wednesday already of a full toter. So people are starting to understand after about a year of getting educated in this complex, and that's just a prime example of something that has been a success for this complex. All right, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Can you take one of these mics and put it on the table?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much to our presenters. I'm really grateful to have had 3 different perspectives, and we'd like to open it up now for your questions for the city or for any of our presenters.
John,
Yes.
you mentioned,
Oh.
Go ahead. John, you mentioned that we can put this in our lease, and I wanted to just verify if our building is sitting on a very busy alley next to the Casey's store, which, you know, tends to get enormous amounts of traffic and, you know, thoughtless use of our trash bins. And of course, our trash hauler, I've talked to him several times, he says that, you know, I just don't see recycling working here because it will end up getting put into the trash every single time because so many people walk up and down this aisle and they're not really looking to recycle or caring if they even put it in a trash bin. It's a daily grind to just pick up the garbage that is just left all over the floor or the ground. So I'm thinking that the best thing I can do for this particular building is to just simply ask the tenants through the lease to take care of their own recyclables. Is that a reasonable thing to do, or do I really need, am I required to have a bin of some sort out there?
This one too? That one? I don't know.
Switch it on.
There, it's on.
Because you can't hear me from here, right? Again, first off, I would start by saying I am not an attorney. I am not giving you legal advice. Consult your own attorney. But I think from my understanding of the city ban says you can't have cardboard in the landfill, and so then the issue becomes, what are you going to tell your tenants they need to do with the cardboard? And so I think you can certainly write into your lease provisions, you probably have something now that says tenant will place trash only in containers approved by the landlord. I think that's what my lease says. So you need to have commensurate language in there too that tells them what they can and can't do with cardboard. So if you tell them cardboard can't go in the trash, and that it needs to be, they either need to contract for service or they need to take it to the city drop-offs. I think that's probably some kind of what you communicate to them, but you need to just give them notice so they know ahead of time what the expectation is.
I think we've put that in our lease probably 9 months ago.
Yeah.
And I certainly will be issuing out these letters on every door over the next week or so to let them know that, yeah, April 1st is coming. And I'm still not abandoning the idea of trying to find a tote of some sort to put on the property somewhere. Right. But so far, my trash hauler and I, we have literally walked around this building and examined, where we might do this, and we are struggling.
Well, it's interesting, and I'm learning at the Lunch and Learn too, because as you saw when I gave my little presentation, I sort of have my preconceived notions about where I was going to drop the toters, but now after listening to you guys talk, I may rethink some of that. We may want to put the garbage toter on one side of the house and the recycling on the other side of the house. So.
Back there in the blue, you had a question?
John, what products do you recycle? I know cardboard's going to be banned, but is it glass, include glass, aluminum, plastic?
So it depends on the hauler. Some of them will still take glass, some of them won't take glass because they don't want to separate it out. But you call around and you'll find out if you want glass to get recycled, you can find haulers that will do it. It might cost you a little bit more because you're getting more service. But you can just call around. Otherwise, they all have a pretty much standard. I'd hand it off to you, Ryan. You know the things that get recycled, the list of things, 1 through 6 plastic.
Yep.
I was going to ask Ryan, some people may not understand our recycling setup in Lincoln with the 3 processors and all the haulers and can you explain?
Okay, well, there's 3 processors here in the city of Lincoln. The haulers can pick and choose what processor they would like to use. Sometimes it's about customer service. Sometimes it's about the cleanliness of the atmosphere of where you take your recyclables. So you have really a choice as a hauler on where you want to take your recyclables. And by the way, we pay to get rid of our recyclables. We pay more to get rid of our recyclables than we get charged at the landfill. So this notion of recycling is free should be out the window right away, because I'm all in for recycling, but we just have to start right away with knowing that it's not free.
How much does it cost?
It's $35 a ton to get rid of recycling. However, I just got notice that it will be going up. He doesn't know approximately how much, but I was told that it's going to go up anywhere between $2 to $4 a ton. So it could be close to $39 a ton coming up in this summer. Yes.
Who's going to be paying for that? Is that?
I pay for that, but if it continues to go up, obviously my recycling costs will go up as well. It just depends, where it is. Now, I will say that the nice thing that I've been doing recycling now, I pick up my own recycling with my own trucks. Currently, the thing about recycling that is different from trash is recycling is like we advertise, clean, dry. And that is a huge effective thing for us because we don't have all of that weight. As long as it's clean and dry recyclables, I can fill up a truck, and on average right now, I'm recycling anywhere between 4,000 and 6,000 pounds per day on one truck. And you know, my trash is obviously a lot worse. I mean, obviously on a nice weekend like we just had, I worked on a truck this morning. I picked up a lot of dog poop, you know, from customers because people on a beautiful weekend cleaned up their yards. Obviously, you're not going to see that in recycling, and that's a lot of weight right there that we pick up. So that's kind of why we choose where we want to recycle, because I also am have a good relationship with where I take the recycling. My recycler knows that I still haul glass, and he has a separate area in his recycling yard so it doesn't mix with his good recyclables, and we're able to, you know, dump that off into the corner of his yard. He does take his recycling about once a year down to Kansas City, and that I know for a fact, but that's why I recycle still with, and I actually take my recycling to Mid-America Recycling because that's where they still allow me to take glass.
So this guy's answer though, 1 through 6 plastic, paper.
You know what? I don't have
Maybe we got stuff on the table,
exactly.
maybe
Yeah,
it
there's
says.
some stuff over here, and basically the stuff over here on the table is exactly what we're allowed to take.
There you go.
The biggest thing that we ask people not is to put styrofoam in there because that's one thing that is not recycled at all in the state of Nebraska. They don't have the machinery for that.
And Ryan, when you showed the box, when you showed the boxes, you talked about the packing too, but just you can leave the tape and the labels on the boxes though.
Yes, you can leave the tape and all the labels on the boxes. It's just the plastic and the styrofoam that's left in the box that needs to be removed.
This is a list of recycling guidelines by material that has been created for the residents and everyone in Lincoln. So please take a copy of this. We can also get you, or you can get a digital copy of this on the city's website if you'd like to distribute this to your tenants. It'd be very helpful.
So on this cardboard bin, and so there will be separate bins just for corrugated cardboard. So if they have cardboard from cereal boxes, they should not put that in there.
No, it can all be mixed together.
It can be mixed.
We have, it's called single stream recycling, which means all the
Okay, what
materials.
about newspapers in there? Can that be in with the cardboard? But, okay, like pizza boxes that have like dirty pizza, you know, grease in there? No, right?
This is my opinion as a hauler. Recently, it came across my computer that the city of Lincoln started saying that, yes, we'll take pizza boxes. From my experience, anytime I open up a pizza box from a recycling toter, per se Papa John's, usually there's still a green pepper and garlic sauce still left in the box. And there's still pizza crust and things of that nature. That can contaminate an entire load of recyclables. So I personally, anytime I see a pizza box, and this is also per se by the recycling facility, if they see a pizza box, they just pick it up and throw it away because of the materials of the food waste or whatever can be inside. Typically is not a good thing for the whole recycling stream. So that's my opinion on pizza boxes. They should not be allowed.
And just to reiterate that point, what is recyclable is clean and dry cardboard. So it should not have food waste on it. It should not be wet. It should not have, any food waste on it.
Is it clean and dry cardboard or clean and dry paper? I mean, because you've said
Both.
newspaper. Is it, so
I mean, we're talking about cardboard because of the cardboard ban, but all recyclables should be clean and dry.
So if there's a tote there and the tenant puts his newspapers in it, is that okay?
Sure.
That's not a problem?
Correct, that's not a problem. Recyclables can be mixed. Yes.
So at the beginning you talked about all the benefits, but obviously there's a huge amount of cost. So what is the estimate for amount of cost per unit? Does anyone have any idea? It sounds like it's substantially more than any kind of benefit. Because you're not making money off the cardboard, right?
No.
No. So this idea that has a lot of the...
You know what? I can't speak for all companies. I can only speak for mine. Right now, like I charge a residential home $8 to $10 for a toter, depending on the size of toter, 65 or 96 gallon toter, and that's once per month. And that's one pickup per week. So that's in a month 4.8 pickups a month. So I mean it's a pretty low cost.
Well, it's not though.
What's that?
The 65 plex, it's 700.
Well, and but see, that's only per tote. At my apartment complexes that I haul, we have anywhere between 2 to 4 toters, per, I would say, I think that there's 120 apartments per building. And we have 4 at the most at one of these buildings. And once a week, they're all full. And so, and you know, if there's actually overflow, we pick it up, you know, just like some of the pictures in the garage. If there's overflow of cardboard, we get it picked up. And, you know, like I say for my company, it depends how large your, you know, how many toters you have for me, because I can offer discounts depending on how many, you know.
But if cardboard is truly 10% of all garbage, it's going to be substantially more than that, right? With 120 units.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know how much. There's a lot of cardboard right now because we call it the Amazon effect. Everyone has a little Amazon box. We're getting a lot more cardboard right now than we ever have before, especially with the word getting out on the cardboard ban. We're simply offering single stream recycling, which people have the option to put not just cardboard out there, but everything else. So the quantity of cardboard and everything is going to be picking up for us, and that's probably why we've seen our increase of 1,000 to 1,200 pounds per load, strictly, I'm sure, off of this cardboard ban. And I'd say in the last probably 6 weeks, we've seen it increase that much. And it has to do, I'm sure, with this cardboard ban, you know, coming closer.
Yes.
I'm curious, looking at this from an environmental aspect, the amount of fuel that is burned to increase garbage truck traffic in the city by probably at least 1/3, if not closer to possibly even more than that. That's a lot of diesel fuel being burned every day for all these trucks. It used to be neighborhoods had 1 garbage company. Now I've got alleys that have 3 garbage trucks, sometimes 4 garbage trucks, sometimes once to twice a week going down those alleys. And now we add recycling, all this extra fuel that's being burnt, hauling those recyclables, and then processing them, trucking them. Are we really saving any type of carbon imprint, or are we creating more problems by doing this to the environment than by trying to recycle something that's basically biodegradable? I've really been concerned about that, and again, all the extra truck traffic that we're going to have with this program. Are we really saving money? And then on top of that, as I brought up earlier, now that China is no longer purchasing recyclables from the U.S., that has dramatically dropped the prices of these to the point where they're probably going to end up in a landfill anyhow.
True. If you read many of the waste magazines, unfortunately, that's happening on the West Coast. But like I said earlier, being in the central part of the country, there's still some markets and commodity markets that are still open.
But again, my question is, are we really doing something good with all this fuel and processing? At the end of the day, is it really a better thing, or are we just causing the taxpayers to pay a whole lot more money to do something that they think they're doing is good, but a lot of this, if the prices keep falling, is just going to end up in the landfill anyhow?
Well, a couple of responses. I love the way you're thinking, so thank you for thinking about the greenhouse gas impact of our system. That's the kind of thing that we analyze at my company a lot, and I've been hoping that like maybe there'll be a student project at UNL actually one of these days that would analyze the GHG impact of our garbage hauling system, both garbage and recycling. Because as you know, Lincoln is a very unusual city in that we have something like 40 haulers. So we have a whole huge number of trucks that are crisscrossing our city every day, every week. And we all know the impact that that's making on our roads, and it's also making a big greenhouse gas impact. So I just want to say that there would be a lot of efficiencies gained in this whole system if the city were to contract with one waste hauler to provide garbage pickup and recycling pickup. That would address all of these issues. But the city is not doing that, and we are not at that point. And part of the reason, the reason is that we are all respecting the free market system that we have in Lincoln. And we have a lot of really wonderful family-owned businesses like Ryan's who've been in business for generations. And everyone wants to keep them in business, and no one wants to pass a new law that puts them all out of business. So we are working with the system we have to try to make progress. And that's why, for the time being, we are still going to have trucks crisscrossing the city. So I think it's an issue, but I would hope, and I haven't done the analysis, but I would hope that the savings, the greenhouse gas savings, or the energy savings would outweigh the GHG emissions.
Just one last thing, because I've had to pay for 2 of these so far where the sewer main taps in the alleys get destroyed over time, and a lot of that I think is because we're getting, again, we've got multiple haulers in a neighborhood now, and now that increased truck traffic, the trucks are getting heavier, more traffic, that really does a lot of infrastructure damage in those alleyways, and at about $3,000 a hit, that starts to add up, especially in these older neighborhoods. So that's a big concern I have too, of just all that extra traffic in the alleys, the extra expense of repairing roads because of the big heavy trucks. I don't think anybody's really analyzing this thing other than we're just trying to be green and recycle, but are we really saving anything, or are we just...
No, people are very much aware of all these issues. It's just that there are no simple answers. There are no simple answers. And so we're all trying to move the needle the best we can, bit by bit. But thank you for raising it. Yes?
Dana with Dempster's Alley Counter Recycling Trailers. We have a contract with Pepsi out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and they are starting a campaign in Oklahoma, Missouri, and Kansas. And they're basically paying for recycling trailers to apartment complexes and places like this. When I was down there about 2 months ago, I kind of was asking them why Pepsi's basically working with each state with the grant doesn't fulfill this cost of the trailer, Pepsi's paying for the rest. And I kind of was trying to get why. And a bottle went rolling down the street, and he goes, that's the reason why it cost Pepsi, probably Budweiser, Coke, all these companies, water bottles that cost them a ton of money to start from fresh. They want all that recycling. And Amazon's going to be the same way with cardboard. For them to start from scratch, and guess what? Amazon's to make money. They're going to pass that on to the people. You're going to pay for that. So that's another reason why there's a big campaign for that across the nation. Again.
So you're saying that the manufacturers are starting programs to recapture their materials?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's to be one of them. And then they hope to launch that. They start in 3 different states, and they're going to expand throughout the Midwest. So.
That's interesting. Yes.
I have a question about education. One of you mentioned, several of you mentioned using flyers and that sort of thing. And basically 2 questions. How successful has that been in educating your tenants? And the other is, have you done face-to-face, door-to-door campaigns?
Hi.
You knew you'd get caught.
I would say flyers are very successful. The trick is getting someone to slow down for 2 minutes and read what you're giving them. I mean, people come home, they could get an eviction notice, and they come home and they throw it on their kitchen table, and 3 days later, oh, that was for me. So constant communication, and not daily, but once a month even. Just, hey, we still have this recycling garage, please use it. With this cardboard thing, it's going to be constant communication for a while until I can train people. So I would say flyers are successful. I personally can't go door to door because I have hundreds of apartments, but I can chat with people at our resident events, and I can chat with them when they come in to pay their rent and things like that. So that's a great idea as far as that goes.
Yeah, same answer. Obviously, you need a flyer that not only exists, but that's effective. So whether that's through translation or whether that's through pictographs, it's also the way you can just see in the language that you use too, because you talk about your apartment communities and you talk about that, and we do that kind of stuff on our flyers too. We address people that live at the houses as neighbors. Hey, A Street neighbors, or you personalize according to yourself. I need your help with this. So you need the flyers that are effective. And again, I think there's some stuff up on the city website that has some templates that you can use for flyers and for posters that can get people started. And we can certainly, I know that Kim and her folks can help people individually if you have individual needs or individual circumstances that you want help tailoring specific information for.
But not much face-to-face directly on this topic.
I mean, I do some. I don't hold house meetings. I mean, I'll be over doing repairs and I'll see people. But with me, since I'm a smaller owner and I have like the house conversions, and since I'm signing my flyers with my name, I'm doing that intentionally too, right? So that they're not only doing it for their neighbors, not only doing it for the house because it's an expectation. It's like any business, right? When you go to show your apartment, you're showing the apartment, but you're selling yourself too. Are you somebody they want to rent from? Are you somebody they have confidence is going to come and fix things? And so that's going to be part of this too, is that we need to do this because it's the right thing to do. And you can use some of those broader themes too. Not only do you need to do it because it's a lease requirement, but you need to do it because of recycling. You know, people want to recycle. They know it's the right thing to do. They know it saves energy, just like the gentleman in the back talked about. So tap into that.
John mentioned resources available on the website, so I just wanted to emphasize this is one of the resources available. This is a brief fact sheet that has some tips and resources for recycling in multifamily housing. We have some copies over on the table there. You can also find it online, recycle.lincoln.ne.gov. I hope you all will go there after today's event. There are tons of resources there, including in other languages, flyers and stuff in other languages. And this is a longer version. This is a more complete toolkit that also provides tips and resources. So please take advantage of all the resources we have online to help you. Yes?
Okay, I have a question. And it's kind of the picture you had with the mattress with cardboard under. Cardboard, when you flatten it, can be really big. And so how do they fit these toters? Don't look that huge. It almost looks like you need that. Maybe at Christmas time you need a bigger one, in December. So I kind of wonder that. Another part of that question, and they're supposed to flatten it. Well, what if they don't? Are we going to be charged as apartment complexes for, there was some unflattened cardboard here, or if somebody doesn't and they put it in the trash and your hauler comes, are they going to go, oh, are we having to be the cardboard police looking through the trash and saying, whose address label is on here, we're going to charge you, those are just kind of legal things.
Well, go ahead. Well, actually, this large apartment complex that I work with, over Christmas, we actually drove through there twice a week to deal with strictly the cardboard boxes over Christmas, because there's a huge flux of, obviously, cardboard boxes around Christmas. So without charging them extra, we just did that as a service to make sure we kept his facilities clean. So that was something that we worked out with them, so you just need to contact your hauler. Now, if you don't flatten cardboard boxes like these large big screen TVs, no, there's no extra charge for that at all. I mean, we've trained a lot of our customers to flatten them, but if they don't and they just have it sitting like inside some of these complexes, they leave them sitting along the fence or on the ground, we come in there and get it all cleaned up. So, and there's no extra charge for that at all.
So if someone puts cardboard in the dumpster, what happens?
Well, once the law is enacted, we're going to have to dig it out. And
Who, you or me?
Me.
Unless it's trash.
Unless it's trash and the cardboard's contaminated. That's one of the things, because unfortunately one of the things that I have to do, because of the way the law is written, is I'm the police. And I'm not going to, but I have to, because I can get fined $100 at the City of Lincoln's landfill. So my drivers and myself don't want to get fined, so we'll just dig it out the best we can, and we will put it in the recycling toter ourselves. That is our initial plan.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
What if it's oil stained or something like that? Then what do you do with it?
Contaminated.
Does it stay in the trash?
If it's severely oil stained, yes, it'll stay in the trash, because we've been notified by Mid-America Recycling that they don't want any contaminated cardboard.
Well, at our complex we have a trash compactor, so then if someone puts cardboard in ours, it's going to be contaminated by the. Okay, so if they take that truck to the landfill, most likely not going to go through that for recyclable, correct?
I didn't understand.
From what I was told by Carla Welding, who's the landfill superintendent, if it is just a single cardboard box that gets thrown through a compactor, they're going to consider it contaminated. However, if there's a pocket of cardboard from a new resident, and when she says a pocket, she showed us a picture of about 40 flattened move-in boxes, and if they see a pocket of cardboard fall out at the landfill, they will make the hauler dig all of that cardboard out. And now what that hauler does, if he charges you or passes,
the tire thing or the battery thing.
right, and then he'll just probably pass on that charge.
Okay.
But as far as I know, they're going to have a box at the landfill for the haulers. So if we have to pull cardboard out, we will pull it out and we will set it inside the roll-off box at the city, at the city's expense with their roll-off there.
What do you do with we're gonna have large boxes in a dumpster or in a toter, and if the lid gets left open and we got 2 inches of rain that night.
Ooh, that's a good
Okay.
What happens to that cardboard?
So we actually brought this question up, if you can believe this, yesterday with Kelly McReynolds at Mid-America Recycling. Basically, wet cardboard could still be recycled. However, what he has to do is he's going to have us dump that wet cardboard, which will have to be separated from the dry cardboard. He will dump that wet cardboard outside of his facility, allow Mother Nature to dry it, and then he will put it in his facility once it's dry and recycle it. And we just got that confirmation yesterday.
I'm Julie Deagle with the Nebraska Recycling Council, and I have a recycling hack I'd like to share with apartment owners and haulers. And that is, we work very hard to try to encourage people to use these standard colors. The landfill black, recycling is blue, compost is green, organics is green. And those are probably universal standards, at least national standards, that if you don't have that right now with your toters or any receptacles you have in your apartment complexes, start working toward that, because that is a visual clue that helps people know what they're supposed to do. And what we find is that people want to do the right thing, but they don't know what they're supposed to do. It's those things like great signage that has images of what belongs in the bin, make them big and obvious, use the color coding, and just make it as easy as possible for people to do the right thing. They want to do it, they just don't know what it is.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. We see that all the time. And I think as we keep hearing over and over again, that education is so important. So signage is really important, and again, making your tenants aware of recycling guidelines so they know what to dispose of where is really important. Yes?
One of you mentioned, I think in the apartment complexes, about you don't do internal containers for tenants. They bring their own stuff down in bags and put it in recycling. What is your criteria on bags in the recycling?
You know, I asked him that last week, actually, if that was a problem from my pictures of people throwing bags, and he said they just go through it, and it's not a big deal. I told him if there's a better way to let me know, but I don't want to put toters in my hallways. I'd have 25 recycling toters sitting in a hallway, so you know that's not the route I want to go.
Some apartment complexes give their tenants a canvas bag that can hang on the back of a doorknob in their apartment for their recyclables, and then they can just walk it down and empty it, carry it back upstairs. It can go in the washing machine when it needs to. Of course, if you take your recycling down in a paper bag, like a paper shopping bag, that's recyclable. So in general, plastic shopping bags should not go into recycling bins. So you have a very nice hauler that picks that out, but you should not encourage your tenants to put plastic shopping bags in recycling. Any other questions?
So the other thing's required is cardboard.
Correct.
So you just need to have a bin for cardboard.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I'd like to know who in the room has a birthday today. Julie?
Oh,
I heard a rumor.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Well, happy birthday, Julie. So glad you got to spend your birthday with us.
Me too.
We won't
What a
sing.
great birthday lunch I had.
You're welcome.
Okay. Well, I just want to reiterate the contact information up here. Jean Hanlon, could you raise your hand again, please? And Matt Jensby. They work at the office. They will answer this telephone number, so please call Jean and Matt if you have further questions. If you would like to get in touch with our presenters, I can get you in touch with them as well. Please visit the website. And just a reminder to please be silent or quiet as you're exiting for the preschool kids. Thank you very much for coming, and best of luck to all of you as you implement your recycling programs.
Could you